Hey, what's up, everybody? Danny Pinto here from the Seleção podcast. And before we get started on episode number 47 of the show, we wanted to remind you that Manscaped is back as a proud sponsor of the Seleção podcast. Europe's best soccer is back this summer for the Euros, so you want to avoid a messy midfield and clean it all up with Manscaped. Be a proper man this tournament and shave your balls with the brand new Lawnmower 4.0, available in the United States and in Canada. And also get Manscaped's Ultra Smooth package. Join over 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer just for you, our Seleção podcast listeners. Get 20% off plus free shipping worldwide when you use the promo code Seleção at manscaped.com. That's SELECAO at manscaped.com. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code Seleção at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com by using the code Seleção. Hit the target and shore up your D this Euros with Manscaped.
Hey, this is Nathan Moats, and you're listening to the Seleção podcast.
Simões bending one for Torres. Eusebio. Oh my word! Have you ever seen anything like that?
Bem jogado por Simão, a passar por dois adversários. Simão a tentar oferecer o golo a Figo e a bola é golo! O golo de Figo!
Rui Costa acreditou, vai tirar para o golo, atira, golo! Golo! Golo! Cristiano Ronaldo, vai embora Cristiano Ronaldo, mete, bateu, golo! Ronaldo! Obrigado, Cristiano! Portugal vai Éder, chuta! Gol! Gol!
And we welcome you to episode number 47 of the Seleção podcast, a proud partner of Portugal.net and a member of the Blue Wire Hustle podcast network. My name is Danny Pinto. I am your host. We want to thank you guys once again for making this show a part of your podcast and now YouTube viewing day. As I mentioned a few days ago on the pod, we were going to go exclusively on YouTube for this week of shows, something out of our control. So we apologize to all of you guys who are used to watching us or listening to us, I should say, via any of your podcasting platforms. But this is a YouTube only episode until we get back on our regular schedule on the podcasting network that we host the show on. But that's stuff that really doesn't concern you guys. I won't bore you with it anymore. But just want to thank you guys again for tuning in, viewing in. Thank you for all the subscriptions to the YouTube channel. Where we crested over 100, and we did that in just a little bit less than a week. The majority of it, you guys have been really hitting the subscribe button since we've been putting stuff on the YouTube channel. So we thank you for that wholeheartedly. But enough of the positive and the mushy stuff. We got to get to what is the negative here, as we just try to digest what the hell happened on Saturday, as Germany in Munich just dismantled and embarrassed our beloved Seleção 4-2. And now has knocked the Seleção from first place to third place. And now just things are not as... not that they were like completely positive, because nothing really up until the 84th minute of the Hungary game seemed to be going our way. We did get the +3 in terms of goal differential and a shutout, which is huge, which may still be a reason why we might get into the round of 16. But it was just no doubt the worst performance by a Fernand Santos-led team, and how long he has as being the manager of this Seleção, of this national team, after a performance, I should say, like Saturday's, that was a huge focus after the match. I've gone on, Twitter's where we kind of do our bread and butter here in terms of our connection with you guys. I've done a couple of spaces interactions, or just kind of chats with the folks on Twitter. That went really, really well this past Saturday, just in terms of getting to talk to people, not because of what we actually spoke about. But the topic for the most part was Fernand Sanch, and just not on the spaces, but just on Twitter. And is this the guy that should still be the manager leading this national team after this Euro is over? And I saw people who said, I don't care if they win it again, he should be out. I mean, for months, some for years, have been calling for his job because of his very defensive approach and not taking advantage of the offensive power that this team could potentially unleash on an opponent. And I have been on the more conservative side of things when it comes to Fernand Sanch. Saturday was his 5th loss ever in a competitive match for the national team. That's going back all the way to 2014. So we're approaching 7 years of him being at the helm. He won 2016 at the Euros, got us our first ever international title as a senior side. Back that up with the inaugural Nations League in 2019. Again, call it whatever the hell you want about that title. It's still a title, and we were the first to get it, and he was at the helm of that. With that said, I'm beginning to look at the situation a little bit like this, and like so many others have. You can forever thank Fernand Sanch for 2016, for 2019, for getting us those titles. And at the very same time, you can also say that his time has come to leave. And whether it's him being fired, whether it's him resigning, we talk about either or with Eric coming up. I wasn't in that camp before Saturday. I'm beginning to listen to what others have probably been clamoring for the last, like I said, last few months, last few years, given that this team has not reached its offensive potential, for the lack of a better term, under his watch. And there doesn't seem to be a fear for Portugal. Not that we should be putting fear into anybody, but in terms of fear offensively, with the firepower potentially that could be unleashed, there is expectation of this team that isn't being met on the offensive side of the football. And when you have a performance like the Seleção did on Saturday, where this defensive mindset, this conservative mindset, this counterattack mindset was absolutely destroyed in 90 minutes, over and over and over again from start to finish, you start to kind of look at things a little bit differently. And yeah, maybe his time has come. Again, so much to digest in a short amount of time here, and it will be interesting to see what happens after France, if we get to the round of 16, which hopefully we do, and then what happens in the knockouts. God, it would not. Here is the absolute truth. It would not shock me if we get knocked out and we don't even make the round of 16. It wouldn't shock me if we won the whole goddamn thing again, because we've seen that playbook before with this coach and now with the better team. I'm everywhere. That's the game against Germany really shook me to the core in terms of my belief in this team and in Fernand Sanch, but we've seen it before, so I'll stop at that. We'll of course be joined by Eric Krakauer of BN Sports. He is of course our Portugal match analyst and has been throughout the tournament. Will be throughout this tournament, whether it's for one more match or if we get to some action in the round of 16. Eric is obviously never shy when it comes to his opinion of Portugal and of Fernand Sanch and of the players. And he'll be on here in just a few minutes here. But a reminder of all the ways you can follow, share, listen, and subscribe to the podcast. First and foremost, bookmark us on your internet web browser at selecaopod.com. So many of you have done it, as I mentioned earlier on. Again, if you haven't yet, please subscribe to us on YouTube. Enter the Seleção podcast in your search engine, and then hit the subscribe button. Follow us on Twitter at selecaopod. Look us up on Instagram at selecaopod. Facebook.com/selecaopod, and you can email us selecaopod@gmail.com. You can subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, or any podcasting platform simply by entering the Seleção Pod in your search engine. And if you are listening to us via Apple Podcasts, leave the pod a 5-star rating and a nice comment on Apple Podcasts if you would be so kind. I know that, again, this is an exclusive YouTube episode. Probably the next one will be too, but these podcasts or these episodes will eventually make their way back into the audio portion of this podcast. So again, once and we're still on Apple Podcasts, so you could still go to Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star rating if you like. You don't have to do it if you don't want to, but again, every little bit helps to make this podcast more available on both podcasting platforms and more visible on social media. And don't forget about our partners over at the Joseph Ray BBQ Company. As look at that, here's some swag. Got some swag from the good folks at JRBC. Joseph Ray Barbecue, pure delicious fire, and it absolutely is. The pictures I saw from Joey's catering deal this weekend were just finger licking good. I don't know if I can say that now. Well, Colonel Sanders, you can sue me if you want, but they are serving delicious barbecue all over Northern California and the Bay Area, and GRBC is the right choice for your Seleção watching parties all tournament long, whether it ends on Wednesday or, again, on July the 11th. Send the Joseph Ray Barbecue Company a message on their Instagram at Joseph_Ray_BBQ_CO for a quote. That's at Joseph_Ray. That's RAE_BBQ_CO for a quote. Let me go ahead and put that banner right under that. There it is. Danny, be a professional for goodness sakes. Yeah, Joey does just an absolute phenomenal job with his barbecue. Again, if it had a pulse at any point in this lifetime, he will put it on the grill and he will make it delicious. Pure delicious fire is what they're all about over at the Joseph Ray Barbecue Company. Make sure you message them for a quote on Instagram, like this podcast. The Joseph Ray Barbecue Company is Portuguese American owned and operated. I knew I wasn't gonna get through that. And they're ready. They are ready to make your next gathering, I should say, a tasty one. Hit up Joseph Ray Barbecue Company on Instagram and tell them that the Seleção podcast sent you. And coming up right now is our interview and our discussion with Eric Krakauer of BN Sports. All right, folks. So welcome into episode number 47 of the Seleção podcast, an exclusive on YouTube this week. A lot of behind-the-scenes stuff that you guys don't need to bother yourselves with on my side of things, but we'll have this pod up on the podcasting site, in the future. But not a lot to talk about this go around as we welcome in Eric Krakauer. Just Portugal put up a good effort, not embarrassing at all, not a lot of questions, all to play for against France. Jesus, Eric, that was well. First of all, bud, welcome, and I hope you had a great Father's Day.
I did, thank you. Still reeling from the trauma that we suffered as a collective, as a nation. I still have trouble thinking about that game. I was fuming during the game, as you saw, based on my tweets, which started very early before the goals actually went in, but. Yeah, it was an abysmal showing, and the questions that a lot of people have been asking of Fernando Santos have just been underscored, haven't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we were of the opinion, at least I was. I've heard the skeptics, I've heard the criticism of Fernando Santos, and yet I am and have been a big defender of Fernando Santos because, as I mentioned in the last podcast, and as I mentioned in podcasts before, it's one of those things that if it ain't broke, it's hard to find fault with it when you get the result. But when you're exposed, as they were on Saturday, the naysayers, the critics, who have had their say for weeks, months, and maybe now a few years, they pretty much were validated with the manner in which Portugal played, and a lot of questions that have been asked of Fernando Santos while the team has been relatively positive. now, Eric, there are a lot of questions with their backs against the wall coming up on with the big match coming up on Wednesday with everything to play for. They have their future in their hands when they take on the defending and current world champs, the French.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really know what to add right now, except to say
I was gobsmacked by that performance. I know you. I mean, you predicted a 2-1 loss, but not all losses are created equal. But that was an ass kicking.
Right. I think we should have conceded 6 or 7. You had a couple of really good saves from Rui Patricio. You had a couple of incredible challenges that came in. Emergency challenges to put out fires. I thought Pep was very good in this game, as good as he could possibly be, considering how stretched Portugal were. And at 38, the fact that he was the best performer on that pitch, it tells you a little bit about not only the system, but how ill-prepared the team was to face the German 3-4-3, because ultimately it comes down to that. I mentioned on the last pod, Danny, that what concerned me is that you have a wounded Germany and a team that has been built to win for decades. This is
Sure.
the winning mentality. I think I used the term courses through their veins, and we saw that. And despite all the talk from Fernando Santos that now people take Portugal seriously as a contender, which people do, maybe not after that shellacking, but the reality is Portugal as a team has never had the winning mentality that Fernando Santos likes to say they do. They just simply don't. Even in 2016, look, they didn't win a single game in 90 minutes. So, and they defended valiantly. Pep was outstanding. Cristiano Ronaldo was excellent as well. But I don't think you look back at the 2016 tournament and think, man, that's a team with a winning mentality. I think that was a team that believed that they could compete with everybody, but they had a lot of luck go their way as well. But that's a whole different conversation. And to sort of relate it to what happened against Germany in Munich, they were scared from the get-go. I mean, even the distribution from Rui Patricio at the beginning, was so errant.
They seemed like deer in headlights.
Yeah.
Didn't know what the left, didn't know if they were going left, didn't know if they were going right, didn't know once they had the ball at their feet what was happening. It was pretty shocking. Yeah,
absolutely.
Real quick, Eric, before we get all the hate mail, because I know you love to receive it. In 2016, Portugal did beat Wales in regulation.
Oh, that's true. The 2-0 game.
Yeah.
The 2-0 game.
Yeah.
Only game. Right. The only game that they won.
The only one. So real quick, just let's recap. We'll get the recap over with. Same starting lineup as in the Hungary game. Patricio in goal, Nelson Smith on the right, Rafael Guerreiro on the left, Pep and Ruben Dias at the central defense there. Double pivot once again with William and with Danilo. We will definitely talk about that. And then you have Bruno Fernandes, Bernard Silva, Diogo Jota, and Cristiano Ronaldo. Fifth minute, it was a preview of things to come. Because even though the goal was nullified, Germany goes through the middle of the field, gets it out to the right side to Gozens. He scores, but the goal is nullified because Gnabry was offside. That was just the beginning of the onslaught that Germany was going to be coming to Portugal with. I had tweeted, if they can survive, they being Portugal, if they could survive the first 15, 20 minutes, because we both thought, Eric, that Germany was going to be coming out guns blazing. But if they could survive that first 15, 20 minutes and even get an early goal, all the pressure then would be on Germany. And then Portugal, given that they are much more of a counterpuncher than the offensive team that we all hope they can be sometimes, that I thought might have opened up something for Fernando Santos and his squad, but it didn't. They got the goal early off the counter. Bernard Silva, Diogo Jota finds Ronaldo in the box, puts Portugal up 1-0 after what was just a hold on your butts kind of 15 minutes for Portugal, but then Germany just kept on going. 20 minutes later, an own goal credited to Ruben Dias. Again, the ball came from the right side. And in this instance, you see Muller just pointing at Gosens. Just go. Get to that spot. And the ball goes to the right. Havertz beats Ruben Dias to the ball. Ball goes off of Ruben Dias. 3 minutes later, another own goal. Ball coming again. This is coming down from the right now. The ball's not going to the right. It's already there. It's a theme that we're going to discuss here, Eric. But another own goal. First time a team has ever given up 2 own goals in a match. Yay to us. We're in history again. There was some talk, Eric, and I'd like to get your thought on it. There was some talk that Gosens on the initial ball may have been offside when he had received it. The arm is, and again, the offside rule seems to change every 2 minutes here, but arm seemed to be a little bit forward. What did you think? Because Clattenburg, the analyst on ESPN, thought it may have been called back, but it evidently was not.
No, I mean, it goes to the shoulder and that's it. Whether the t-shirt, the top of the t-shirt sleeve, no, we weren't going to get saved once again. And man, did we not deserve to. So I've got no issues whatsoever with that no call.
Sure. So we head to the half down 2-1. At the half, Renaat Sanch comes in. I had no problem with Renaat Sanch coming in, given that they needed some offense. I was a tad surprised that Bernard Silva was the decision as the substitute. Not that he was setting the world on fire. He did set up or was part of that counterattack to get that first goal, but you would think you would want to have some of your offensive stars on the field to build a comeback, but he decided, Fernand Sanch did, to take out Bernard Silva. 5 minutes into the half, one of the nails in the coffin came when Havertz made it 3-1. Again, the ball playing to the right side. Another goal, this one by the man of the match, Gosens. He gets the ball, beats Nelson Smith, again, wide open on that right-hand side of the Portuguese defense to make it 4-1 after the 59th minute. What could be the saving grace here is Portugal's goal in the 67th that right now has them, after half of the teams have played all 3 games now, still has Portugal currently second among the third-place teams to qualify for the knockouts. Gets us to 4-2. 10 minutes later, or check that. Yeah, about 10 minutes later, Renaat Sanch with, I don't know how he didn't kick the stuffing out of the ball, Eric, on that shot that hit the post off of a corner. Set play, that hits off the post. That could have changed the last 10 minutes or so of the match to make it 4-3. It was not to be, and a 4-2 defeat at the hands of the Germans is what the national team of our beloved Portugal got. Easy question, Eric, what happened?
Well, look, let's go to that disallowed goal that you mentioned, where Gnabry is offside. He makes a deliberate move towards the ball, so it's the right decision. Gosens puts it in. The ball comes from the right-hand side. I forget whether it was Kimmich who crossed it, but there was an eternity for the crossing player to pick up his head and pick out a target. Whether or not Gosens was the intended target, that's up for discussion. But right after that play, or maybe just before, I tweeted, we are going to have some real issues with the wing overloads. I think about 4 minutes into the game, I tweeted that. It was obvious immediately from the setup. And, the sort of lateral defending from Portugal since Fernando Santos has been the coach has been a weak point. And that's not pointing fingers at, Nelson Smith or Rafael Guerreiro, who I mentioned in our first preview pod is not a very good defender. I wanted him to play against Hungary because this is you knew that they were going to have most of the ball and that you needed somebody who could elaborate in tight spaces in possession, and he's one of those guys. And it so happened that he scored the first goal with the luck of a terrible deflection. But it's an area that has been vulnerable for Portugal forever. And in this game, with a team playing with 2 very attack-minded wing-backs, and Gosens, who plays for Atalanta, and Kimmich, who doesn't really play anymore as a right-back or as a wing-back with Bayern because he has developed over the last 5 years into probably the best deep-lying playmaker in world football. He's actually one of the most complete players in the world. You can stick him anywhere. You could probably put him in goal and he put a good performance. But he is a guy who started his career as a right back. He knows that position well. There was a lot of talk leading up to this game that he was being wasted in that position. But when you have İlkay Gündoğan as well as Toni Kroos in the middle, you can put a player of that quality on the right and he's going to deliver. And deliver he did. And what you saw early on was that Bernardo Silva and Jota, but mostly Bernardo, weren't tracking back. They simply weren't doing the defensive work. You pointed this out, and I'm sorry that I'm speaking too much here.
No, go for it.
You pointed out one of my tweets before the tournament started that I thought that Diogo Dalot should have started instead of Semedo. But I was happy with Semedo's performance in the game against Hungary, despite the issues that he had going forward. And I don't think he had a particularly bad game here. And I know that a lot of people, as soon as I say that, are wondering, well, what the hell is this guy talking about? But if you watch closely at the system that Germany employed, it was perfect because Nelson Semedo was sucked in time and time again to help out in more central areas because of the three forwards. So you had Havertz coming in deep in between the lines. He would sometimes be followed by Ruben Dias. He'd sometimes be followed by Pep. You had Gnabry and Muller making vertical runs that required Semedo and at times Guerreiro to follow them, because if not, Ruben Dias or Pep would be isolated against two guys. So obviously what that does is it opens those positions out wide. And if you don't have not a defensive minded, but somebody who is alert to defensively to go and compensar, as they say in Portugal, for the sucking in of the fullbacks, you're doomed. So on so many occasions, you saw Nelson Semedo go into the middle and look behind his back and see that Gosens was wide open and Bernardo Silva is all the way forward. Now, there was one play that led to one goal, which I sort of forgive Bernardo, because he picked up the ball. There was a counterattack from Portugal. He picked up the ball deep in his own side, and he made a sprint all the way to the end, and there was a goal-scoring opportunity, but a tackle took the ball off his feet. And I can understand that he was gassed and couldn't track back. In that situation, you have, Danilo move over. Now, you mentioned a double pivot. Portugal didn't actually play in a double pivot in this game. They played with a 4-1-4-1 with William Carvalho playing more as an 8. Now, he was pulled back because Portugal was playing very deep. And in a double pivot situation, if you were playing that, you have the double pivots sort of spreading wide to make up for those wingers who don't track back, and then somebody who's in the position of Bruno Fernandes coming in. But the whole system, once a domino fell positionally, everything started to crumble. But the plan that Germany implemented worked from the word go. And what was infuriating to me, and this is my last point on this, I promise, what was infuriating to me was that Fernando Santos did not make the adjustments. What he did was he replaced players. Bernardo Silva, you said you were surprised that he was pulled. I was surprised he wasn't pulled earlier because he wasn't doing the tracking back. I understand that he's an attacking catalyst, but when you're pegged back the way we were, Bernardo Silva is not a guy who's going to give you, at least now, over the last few years, the kind of presence that you need. With Monaco under Leonardo Jardim, when they played a counter-attacking football, but they were explosive on the counter-attack, yes, he was more suited to that strategy because that's how he sort of played. But he's been playing for Manchester City for years, a team that dominates possession. So then he brings Renato Sanches, and within 5 or 6 minutes, he doesn't cover Gosens. He doesn't come back. He's actually watching him. And you have, I think, the fourth goal. And then Rafa comes in. Renato Sanches moves into the middle where he was more effective, it must be said, in possession. And Rafa watches Gosens go in for that header. I mean, he tracks him back for a little bit, but once the cross is made, he doesn't even make an effort to put a body on him. So it was just stupefying. It was mind-numbing to see the same cycle of play prove so effective because Portugal couldn't adjust. And as much as you chalk that down to individual mistakes, Fernando Santos, man, you have to take the blame.
Yeah, and he did so in so many words after the match, where he says, "If you want to blame somebody, blame me." That's all well and good, but this is the system that has been his bread and butter maybe not system itself, but just the in terms of the style of play, where it's
the defensive posture.
Yeah, absolutely, and
which makes it more aggravating, right? Sorry, which makes it more aggravating.
No, go ahead.
Because you've built this entire team on its defensive solidity. Although Portugal, let's be honest, they've never really defended that well, right? And I'll give you a comparison. You watch the way that Hungary defended against Portugal, and you watch the way that Portugal sometimes defends, even when they manage to keep a clean sheet. There seems to be too much emergency defending from Portugal, right? Like a necessary, urgent tackle from Pep. Ruben Dias making,
like a handful of last ditch efforts. Yeah.
Exactly. So this is not a team that, while we keep a lot of clean sheets with Fernando Santos, this is not a team that you look at and you go, oh man, they're really sturdy. Like organizationally, they move as a really good unit. They don't. They really don't. We just have very good players, like Pep, for example. But just to go back a second, what's amazing is that this is a guy who's built this team to be defensive, and yet he could not make the adjustments. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, that is his calling card. And again, it's the style of play that has been questioned and criticized now for, I would say, about 2 to 3 years, given the emergence of these offensive players that weren't part of the 2016 team. And yet it is it's like Groundhog Day over and over again, where we're trying to get the result instead of kind of trying to make a team play against us, knowing that offensive players are coming. Most teams now, Eric, and have been for the last few years, know that there's not going to be a punch. There's going to be a counter punch. There's not going to be an offensive type of attitude with this national team. The only game I can think of where they were a little bit more on the front foot was the final against the Netherlands in the Nations League, where Portugal controlled that game from start to finish. It was the most complete game I think I had seen Portugal play in a while. Maybe even the game against Croatia in the Nations League without Ronaldo when they beat Croatia 4-1.
Yes.
But again, those are anomalies. Right. Yeah, those are anomalies. Yeah.
I actually don't even know if I completely agree with you about the Netherlands game. I think that they were certainly they executed their counterattacking game plan well. They didn't boss possession in that game, if I remember correctly. And maybe they did at one point, but I remember thinking that Holland had a lot of the ball, just weren't really able to create very much. A couple of shots.
They played very Portugal-like on offense.
They played efficiently. I think you're right. Yeah. I think you're right in saying that they played efficiently. Right? They were able to stretch the Netherlands on multiple occasions, but it took a shot. One of these Gonçalo Guedes specials to get the winner. I don't think they ever really, proved to have the cutting edge that we like to believe that Portugal should be playing with, given the amount of talent that they have. And I haven't seen Portugal play like that since 2000, the Euro in 2000. That was the last time I saw Portugal playing like a team that was endiabrado, right? They had the devil in their boots. And we all know how that turned out in the semifinals against France.
Sure. We're talking with Eric Krakauer here. We're looking back on the disappointing loss against Germany this past Saturday in round 2 of the Euro 2020. As Portugal sit currently in third. We'll bring up the standings here. Let's bring up the standings on the third place standings first, and I'll share that with you here in just a second as we are. And I just lost it, but I bring it again because I am nothing if not determined to get this on. There it is. So after today's victory by Switzerland, they are in as a guaranteed third place team. So right now, Portugal is fighting for 3 spots. You see here, Ukraine and Finland, they have already played their 3 games. So Portugal currently sit in second. You have Spain, you have Croatia playing tomorrow. Again, it's in our hands, Eric. If we want it here, as we look to Wednesday, the standings are as they are. France has already qualified. At worst, they are a third place team, depending on how things go in the match against Portugal, and then Germany hosting Hungary. Hungary can still and I hate using bad language, but I don't have a way to edit it this go around. Hungary can still fuck shit up for Portugal, and this is how. So if you look at the Portugal match, Portugal with a draw or a victory are automatically into the final round or into the round of 16. A Portugal loss doesn't necessarily mean that they are out. However, they will be out if Hungary beats Germany, because Germany would then have the third place finish because of head-to-head. So again, it's very important that Portugal does obviously try to get any kind of result whatsoever in this situation that they put themselves in, and that's something that is kind of a theme here for Portugal. Portugal has put themselves in situations where they've made the work harder for them. You go back to qualifying for this tournament. Not taking care of business against Ukraine and Serbia at home when they clearly dominated both those teams. They were
robbed against Serbia. That was the World Cup qualifier, wasn't it?
That's World Cup qualifier. Yeah, we can't get rid of those guys to save our lives.
All mixed up because of the condensed schedules. Jesus.
But that game too. It's one of those things where it's like Portugal has not ever been the dominant team that we all think they should be. And that, I think, has a lot to do with Fernando Santos, and we will get to Fernando Santos here in a minute here. But
hold on. It happened with Paulo Bento. It happened with Carlos Queiroz, where they had trouble qualifying. I remember, I forget who it was against, but to get into the 2010 World Cup, it took a Bruno Alves goal late against somebody to get a win.
Albania,
right? Albania, yeah. And then we go to, in Denmark, there was a, Cristiano Ronaldo header late in the, so it's not like this is just something that is that is limited to. This is just it's in our DNA.
Yeah, we always find a way to do it Arrasca, dude. It's never easy. I've always fought back against like the whole we always do this. Well, you know what? It shouldn't be that way because there are different players now. There are different coaches, but yet we still find a way. And as you mentioned, Eric, it's like it's in our DNA that this is the only way we know how to do this. And that's frustrating as hell, but
it's in my DNA when I play pickup soccer. My team is usually losing 5-0 before we react. Okay, so I mean, even I'm affected.
I guess we'll find out in an hour, right?
That's true.
Yeah, Eric's actually got to play some football himself too after this interview, so we appreciate his time. But so just some scenarios that could happen if Portugal do finish in third place. They would play either Belgium or the Netherlands, as you see here, on the 27th of June, which is a Sunday. If Portugal do end up winning their group, they would play on the 28th, which is a Monday. As winners of Group F, they would take on either the third place team from Group A or Group C. And if they are a runner-up and finish second, they would take on either the Czech Republic or England in London on Tuesday, the 29th of June. So it's not fun to be in the situation that we're in. We have been here before, and it's one of those things where, it's part of the DNA. Sometimes you just wish you could change your DNA and just do what we hope for from this team. I sent you some notes, Eric, and I want to get to this one. Us as fans, and I know you're a member of the media, but you're a fan of this national team. I know you are. It's in your blood. It's in my blood too. I'm a fan first. We rate this team very highly because of the success and the transfer fees and all the glitz and glamour that come with Ronaldo, with the emergence of Bruno Fernandes, winning championships at City like Bernardo Silva has, the emergence of a player of the year in England like Ruben Dias. But are the expectations too high? And from something that you kind of talked about earlier is, they won 20 in 2016, but look how they won it. Are the expectations too high because the team is now better and because we won it in 2016? And is it fair?
No, look, I don't think the expectations are too high because I don't know how many people, who support Portugal, who are Portuguese, thought going into this tournament that they were going to win it. Look, all you have
But
to
again,
do.
I'm asking though, just from a fan perspective, because we all think we're the hottest thing since sliced bread for the most part.
Well, but that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Look, let's be real. You, Danny, you hang out within a Portuguese community a lot more than I do, right? I don't. I'm in Miami now. I do work with 2 or 3 Portuguese people. We have very different opinions about the Portuguese national team. One of them is utterly obsessed with Fernando Santos and thinks that he's the guy who took us to the footballing altar. And he's right to a degree. He did, after all, win 2 trophies. But from speaking to my friends, even in Portugal, I never got a sense from them as fans that they thought that Portugal was going to win this tournament. I certainly did not go into this tournament to take away the media badge. Okay, I have to try and be as objective as I can.
Sure.
But I certainly didn't look at Portugal and think they're going to win this tournament. I thought, here's a group of death with the 3rd place. I think it's possible that we will get through to the round of 16, and if we get a really good matchup, we have a chance. Okay. Now, 2 of the teams that you mentioned, by the way, Belgium and the Netherlands, what do they have in common? They play with a very similar system to Germany. So already, I've decided to put diapers on. Okay. And that's
we better beat France then.
and that is if we make it through. But the reality is this: all those talented players that you were talking about, they're all super successful, but they are successful with players from other countries on their teams in different systems. And that doesn't always translate when you bring everybody together, especially using the system that Fernando Santos has been, relying on since he took charge.
Well, Fernando Santos is a hot topic, that is for sure, and I want to get to some of our Twitter questions. My inbox blew up when I asked for some Twitter questions, and I don't know if you guys saw, or Eric, I don't know if you saw, but I'm going here to the first one here, but I just want to show you here. There it is. What questions do you have for us? And just I got a little cute here with the artwork here with Fernando Santos with a hand on his chin, and he says, "I hope no one asks about my tactics or my job security." And let's go to the first question here, Eric. In your opinion, is Fernando Santos out if Portugal does not qualify for the round of 16? Well, actually, let me rephrase that. Should he be, and do you think he will be if that scenario happens?
I don't think he will. I think he should be. But not just because of the Euro, but you cannot, and I don't know who would replace him. Definitely not Jose Mourinho. Anybody but that guy. I mean, he's at Roma.
Yeah,
but
we agree there. For now, anyway, we agree.
Yeah, just keep that guy away from the Portuguese national team, please. I mean, the man sucks the life out of everything. But that's a different conversation. I think that given the talent that we have at our disposal, we need somebody who is a little bit more tactically adept, somebody who is certainly more adventurous in his football. So not him. Jorge Jesus, for example, would be somebody that I would be happy to have. I know things have not gone well for your beloved Glorioso this season, but he is the kind of guy. He's the kind of guy who has the sort of systems that can get the best out of this Portuguese national team.
It's almost serendipitous as we go to the next question here. And before we get to the next question, Eric, do you think he would resign before he was fired?
Maybe. He would resign.
And by saying resign, as in like being told that if you don't quit, you're fired. But do you think it would be a resignation before it would be a firing? You think?
Didn't he renew his deal just like a year ago?
Till the end of the next Euro in 2024. But
yeah, look, listen. I have a feeling we're stuck with him. All right, next question.
All right, Next question. We spoke of Benfica. Here is Sergio at Serge P says, looking at Benfica's tactics this year, do you think Danilo dropping in between defenders when defending versus Germany would have done enough to stretch out wider and help close the gaps?
Look, yes, but it's a complicated question to answer, and I'm certainly not going to be long-winded about this. If Danilo goes in and that prevents Semedo and Rafael Guerreiro from having to sort of to come into that central lane to help out with those central overloads, I'm worried that Germany would be able to create overloads in the middle, in between the lines. I guess the easy answer to that is yes, that seems to be a way that you could handle this. The problem is the way that Portugal were playing. If Danilo does that, you're going to ask Bruno Fernandes and William Carvalho to be doing a lot of defending as well. Okay, so they have to come in deep as well, because they have to make sure that there are tight lines between what essentially becomes a 3 center back system, at least defensively in that situation, and that pins Portugal back considerably. But yes, that would potentially be a solution. That would be a solution, yeah.
This one is from Andre Vega at Vega London. We don't have to answer this one because I think we've kind of covered it a little bit, Eric. But I just wanted to again just kind of reiterate if we missed anything on this sort of subject here. Did Santos not see the Gosens issue? And if he did, the players weren't doing what he told them. Why wasn't he on the sideline screaming to remind them? Trying to understand how we conceded the same goal 4 times plus a disallowed version 2. That's the head scratcher of all head scratchers. I think for me and for you from this defeat is how could adjustments not be made, considering the type of coach that Fernando Santos has built his reputation on. How were adjustments by either him and or the players not made during the 90 minutes?
Well, players don't usually make those adjustments by themselves. I mean, sometimes a player offensively does something that the coach doesn't necessarily ask. Like, I don't know if Fernando Santos told Bruno Fernandes in that first game against Hungary to come deeper into the right channel in order to create those overloads on the right that ultimately proved successful against Hungary. Maybe it was Bruno Fernandes who made that decision, So I think that in terms of, the attacking processes, I think it's more common for a player or players to take it into their own hands and move into a position where they feel that they can pull strings, especially guys who are, have high IQ attacking wise, like Bruno Fernandes. Defensively, it's a little bit tougher. And you know how I just struggled to answer that question about Danilo, and I was a little bit sort of mixed up in how I would answer that. I'm not a coach. I mean, I coached at the U18 level, but I'm not a guy who has the experience that Fernando Santos has. There is no doubt in my mind that he recognized what the issue was. I just don't think he knew how to counter it. I think that at a certain point, especially when you go down 2 goals, you can't ask your team to sit as deep. João Moutinho came out and said, we were too deep, and that was one of the problems because you invite that sort of pressure, and that's why those lanes were open as well. But I think he was lost to find a solution, because now you're down a goal. You need to attack, so you need to push those creative players who weren't doing their defensive duties to begin with further up the field. So you're going to be vulnerable anyway. When you play a system, when you play with a 4-man back line against a system of wing backs, the real solution, unless you switch to 3 center backs and you play with wing backs as well to cover those guys, is that you need to be on the front foot. You need to be playing football, possessing the ball in such a way that those wing backs get pinned back. They're not at liberty to move forward as freely as Kimmich on the right and Gosens on the left. And since Portugal had trouble holding on to the ball, possessing the ball for a long periods of time, I mean, they made so many mistakes in possession because they looked so nervous. Gosens and Kimmich never really had to track back. And the few times that we hit them in transition, we exploited those areas where they left gaps behind them. So it's a difficult thing for a coach, I think, to adjust to. But Fernando Santos, given his experience, should have been able to find some sort of solution before we conceded the second goal.
You mentioned that it's hard for a team, or the players on the team, or on the field, I should say, to adjust tactics. That's got to, the majority of that has to come from the head coach. A Fernandes 78 on Twitter. I won't go into the entire question here, but what I've highlighted is he asks, why was there no leadership on the field? That spoke to me a lot when I read it today, and I looked back on the game. I rewatched it yesterday, and that was the thing that, to me, Eric, was the, I guess, most disappointing. It's not about the leaderships per se, but there didn't seem to be. And again, you first look at your captain, and I think Ronaldo did everything that he probably could have done, given the way that they played offensively. He's one that will track back and help out when he can, but there just seemed to not be someone on the field that grabbed everyone's attention and to wake everybody up. And maybe and you could tell guys tried, but nothing got through to the collective. And that, to me, was maybe probably one of the more disappointing parts of that match on Saturday. Was I'll never say that these guys didn't care, but they just didn't react. And they were just kind of hit with the thunderstick so early that they were kind of in shock the rest of the way.
Oh, look, I mean, Danny, that's really hard to ask of players, okay? Because when you go into a tournament or you go into a game, you have to trust that the system that has been devised by your coaching staff is a system that is going to prove fruitful against the team, right? That you'll be able to have success. And if plan A doesn't work, you have to think that there is some sort of plan B. But the thing is, plan A was eviscerated in the first few minutes. And then there seemed to be no plan B. So you're asking a lot from the players to then not only have to think about their particular task at that moment, dealing with these marauding German players just coming at them at full speed, and then trying to figure out what they need to tinker in order to stave off wave after wave of attack. It's just a very difficult thing to do. And you mentioned Cristiano Ronaldo, and he did have a decent game. But I was so, everybody was, people tweeted it. It became a GIF or a GIF. And, you had all these American broadcasting Twitter handles tweeted out that moment where he looks one way and he backheels it into either Bruno Fernandes or Bernardo Silva, and he looks at the crowd. I wanted to slap him because people might find that super impressive. You're playing Germany, man, okay? Do those tricks when you play Latvia, when you play Luxembourg, that sometimes you have a hard time breaking down, okay? Don't do that against the Mineshaft, a team that has beaten you 10 times out of the last 15 games, something like that. A team that rampages through you in tournaments. In 2008, we lost to them. In 2006, third place game, we lost to them. We lost to them in 2012. I mean, don't do that. It's just so enervating. Do the back heel. That's fine. Do the back heel. But stop posing for pictures, you fool, right? Because what it says to me is that moment for him is bigger almost than the game. And I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me, but that is how I perceive moments like that in games of this magnitude. So you talk about leadership, and Cristiano does, he shows his leadership. And to me, that's not leadership.
All right.
Leadership to me is Pep on the field, pointing at people. Leadership to me is Sergio Ramos. I've been lucky enough to call a bunch of Real Madrid games, and, he makes mistakes, but a guy who is absolutely focused on the task at hand. And I'm not saying that Cristiano Ronaldo isn't. He's one of the two greatest players that I've ever seen in my life. But he has a tendency to showboat at times when you shouldn't.
All right, fair enough. And I want to
question, but
listen. Yeah, you needed to get that off your chest, but it's okay. Not a big deal. And I want to apologize to all our Latvian and Luxembourg listeners who who pretty much Eric disrespected there. I'm kidding. Last question here, because I know we got to let you go here. Your schedule is a bit tight tonight, but really appreciate you jumping in for a little bit. The last question here is from Luciano Feltrin, excuse me, and his question is, and we got about a handful of these similar questions, but what formation would you choose to play against France, especially since they would have most likely seen how Germany took advantage of Portugal with width? And I'll piggyback on this because it's a lot of what we also got into, Eric. There needs to be changes, more than likely, and there will be changes, and Fernand Sanch alluded to them in his press conference. If you had to pick, who you'd like to see in this starting lineup and who you'd like to see out of it, based off of these last two performances, how would you like to see the team play against France on Wednesday, and who do you think would be in that lineup that you would like to see play?
I'd like to see Nuno Mendes on the left.
That could be a problem because he is still not recovered from injury.
Not recovered from the knock. I'd like to
just real quick before I don't mean to interrupt you, but Nuno Mendes still on the mend. João Felix, I believe, worked with the team without any restrictions. We haven't seen him yet in the Euros, but that's the only two injury updates I would have as of this recording. But go ahead.
Yeah, I would play with a 4-3-3 first of all. With an inverted triangle with somebody in that pivot. Danilo more than William Carvalho, because I thought William Carvalho was a little bit too sloppy, and then Bruno Fernandes in that midfield three, and I think maybe Sergio Oliveira deserves an opportunity to start. I am considering the season that he had with the national team up front. I think I'd like to see Renato Sanches. The question then becomes: do you play him in midfield or do you play him out on the right, where he played so often with Lille? I think he's a lot better in the middle. But a 4-3-3. Just to focus on France a second. France has more threats than Germany, but I think that one of the things that we have going for us is that France is a very vertical and very narrow team. The width that they get is mostly from Kylian Mbappe coming off the left side and cutting inside. In order to fit Griezmann and Benzema and Mbappe on the same team, they've had to move to a diamond formation, and that's good news for Portugal if they stick to it, because I don't think Pavard is a particularly good attacking fullback. I think he's a very good defender. In fact, he's really a center back. He's not a right back, even though he's been playing as a right back for the last couple of years. And I'll be interested to see who starts on the left, whether it's Lucas Digne or if it's Lucas Hernandez. Because if it is Lucas Hernandez, he won't give you the same sort of verticality that Lucas Digne will, but Hernandez is a better defender than Digne. So that's going to be interesting. But the point there is, Germany really hurt Portugal by spreading them with their wide play. France don't look like a team that is able to spread teams efficiently. So that's a thing that I think for Portugal is good news. And the one guy who came in against Hungary and really stretched them was Ousmane Dembele, and he is out of the tournament. Yep. So I think that is good news. If France continue to try and penetrate centrally, Portugal can hold them back. The question is, how do you deal with Kylian Mbappe coming off of the left? You certainly cannot leave Nelson Semedo isolated against him.
No. I think people would have an absolute heart attack seeing Mbappe going up against Nelson Smith one-on-one. Real quick, Portugal need a result, Eric. Given, and we won't ask for win, draw, loss. I'll just ask you flat out. When we reconvene, whether it's Wednesday night, Thursday night, but when the next time we speak on this podcast, are we talking about Portugal in the round of 16, or are we talking about the defending champs going out in group play?
I think they're going to be in the round of 16. I think they're going to be in the round of 16 because of the way the other results
God.
Well, listen, I'm not omniscient here. Okay? So I was right about Portugal losing. I never expected it to be the thumping that they got. But I think we're going to see either a 0-0 or a 1-1 against France. France is going to be, they're through. They may rest some players. Griezmann talked about being angry. His grandfather is Portuguese, so his family is split in the middle here. I think it might be 1-1, but Portugal will have trouble breaking down that French team. And just very quickly on that, what amazed me, I actually texted Thiago Estevão about this. Again, somebody I recommend that everybody follow on Twitter. And I said, Fernando Santos didn't learn anything from France, did he? A solid block of 2 lines of 4, a Benzema who helped out defensively with Griezmann, and just Kylian Mbappe waiting to be the release valve. That is the way Portugal should have approached the game against Germany. But no, he didn't. It didn't work that way whatsoever. Of course, we don't have Kylian Mbappe. But I lose myself here. So 1-1. I'm gonna go with 1-1 or 0-0. We get the point. We go through.
All right, folks. Listen, this was 45 minutes that absolutely flew here, and we thank Eric for his time as always. Go ahead, Eric.
I just want to add something. This just came up today, but if any of your viewers are into Twitch, which I don't even know what that is, but I had to set up an account today, I'm going to be live streaming that game with Jimmy Conrad and I forget his name, and a former Premier League player whose name it just escaped me right now. We'll be chatting through that game as we watch the game. That will be on Twitch. So look out for that if you are. We'll make
sure to retweet it from our account that you, Jimmy Conrad, and an EPO player to be named later. We'll be on the Twitch account. Yeah, the pod has a Twitch account. I'm like you. I don't know how to use it, but whatever. Eric, again, thanks, man, for your time. We hope that we will be talking under some circumstances that have us previewing our round of 16 matchup this coming weekend or early next week. And all the best to you and the family, man. And we will talk in a few days.
All right, man. Hopefully we'll have some positives. Thanks for having me.
All right, buddy. Take care, man. And once again, we want to thank Eric Krakauer for joining us here on episode number 47 of the Seleção podcast. Make sure you follow him on Twitter at Eric Krakauer. That's ERICKRAKAUER. Guys, yeah, it's not great, the position that we're in, but our destiny is absolutely in our hands. Está nas nossas mãos. If they find a way to first of all, put Saturday behind them, and just learn from Saturday, and that if Nunsunch makes the correct tweaks to this starting 11 and just to the actual tactics, the Seleção have every opportunity to find themselves in the round of 16, and who knows, they could get there as group winners. They could get there as in second place. They could get there in third place. We already know what the scenarios are. We went over that with Eric on this episode during our time with Eric as of this recording, obviously. But it's all to play for the Seleção. And if there's anything that, Portuguese people are two things. They are very negative, but they're also very proud. And I hope that the pride that these players should have in themselves bust through in this match against France, because it would be quite a shock to me if this group of players, no matter how Nunsunch coaches them, if this group of players did not make it out of this group of death be damned. This team is too good to go out in group play, and I would hope that that does not come to fruition. But we shall see in depending on when you see this, in 24 to 36 hours time here. But all to play for the Seleção, and definitely a chance to still can shock the world, guys, in a positive way, not a negative way. So that will do it for us here on episode number 47 of the Seleção podcast. I hope you guys really enjoyed an entire episode here on the video. video presentation here on YouTube. Again, we should have the audio portion of it squared away in the next week or so. So we'll look forward to Eric and I talking about the France matchup either Wednesday or Thursday, depending on both of our schedules. But it's a good opportunity for this portion of the presentation of this podcast to grow and to reach more eyes instead of just the ears. And we've got a great response so far from you guys, and I really appreciate the support that you guys give the show in all facets, in this, social media, subscribing on all our podcasting platforms, whatever the case may be. Just a big thank you and a muito obrigado to all of you for making this show as fun as it still is, even if we're going through a really crap time in the last few couple of days here. It sucked. That Germany game sucked, guys. There's no other way to say it. But like I said, that'll do it for us here on episode number 47 of the Seleção podcast. Remember to bookmark our website, selecaopod.com. Subscribe to us right here on the YouTube. Yes, do it. Don't know where the subscribe button is. It's here. Don't know, but remember to hit that button. Share the link to the site or to the YouTube channel with all your friends. Another way for you guys who are listening to us to just be able to look at this pretty face. Look at this face. I mean, who doesn't want to see more of this? Don't answer that. Please don't answer that. Follow us on Twitter and on Instagram at selecaopod, facebook.com/selecaopod, and email the show at selecaopod@gmail.com. Remember to subscribe to us. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, any podcasting platform, we're on there. Subscribe to us. If you're on Apple Podcasts, 5-star rating and a small review of the positive variety would be absolutely tremendous. We look forward to seeing you guys again and listening to you or talking to you guys again after Wednesday's matchup against France. All to play for. I keep saying it, but it's true. We'll see what happens here on Wednesday, and we'll have it for you on our next episode of the Seleção podcast. My name is Danny Pinto. I have been your host of this podcast. We are a proud partner of Portugal.net and a member of the Blue Wire Hustle Podcast Network. And as always, Força Portugal! Woo!